we today? Yes, another day, another webinar. We have Charles Ufua today. He's a project manager. He's been working in the UK for so long. Well, he'll tell you more about himself. Okay, thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Charles. How are you today?
Hello, Aisha. I'm okay. Thank you for
Good,
having
good.
me.
Nice to have you. Yeah, we'll go right into it. Can you tell me your full name? Can you tell us your full name and what you do?
My name is Charles Ufua. I'm a project controls consultant, and I'm based in the UK.
Okay. So give us a bit more background on your career because I know you're an architect. We were working together before I left the UK. So could you give us how you moved, transitioned from architecture to project management and whatnot?
I'm still an architect. Like you rightly said, I have a background in conserving, and thereafter to architecture, to master's degree level, and later I did a master's in project management. Because I'm a total cost expert. My construction journey started with conserving, so I'm really interested in cost control in projects. And of course, my love for architecture made
There was a big pause on my end.
yeah.
So
So okay,
you were just giving me a background about yourself when it went off.
yeah. So can you hear me?
Yeah, you know. Yeah, you're talking about cost control.
Yes. So I was giving you, my background, my journey from quantity surveying to architecture to project management. So I was trying to make you understand that there's no aspect of these disciplines that I have left unattended to. I'm into all of them at the same time. For instance, where I work at the moment, though I'm a consultant, project controls consultant, I am fully involved in the pre-construction aspect of the works. So what I do basically as first principles is to get coordinate drawings from the designers. As you know, the construction industry is very fragmented and segmented. Professionals tend to work in silos, and these are part of the problems where mistakes and omissions are introduced in projects. So due to technological advancements, we now have the tools to proactively arrest a lot of these anomalies in construction. So what I do is, as an architect, liaising with any architect that we are involved with on any project is very key to me. He is the one who takes the brief, what we call in project management requirement management. So he takes the brief from the client and translate that into graphical designs and written specifications, depending on what the client wants. And thereafter, this drawing goes to other consultants as well, MEP consultants, structural engineers. There are two problems inherent in the way we work. People use, because there are different software vendors, different professionals tend to use their preferred softwares, and there is problem with interoperability of these softwares, which means that if you work in AutoCAD and somebody works in MicroStation, bridging that gap can be a bit problematic, and that gives problems in terms of, actually, analyzing and interrogating.
Increase your volume at your end.
You hear me now?
I can hear you. Could you increase your volume at your end? I'm hearing you, but it's a bit.
Okay. Let me see what the problem is. When I get any project I'm involved in, especially in the pre-construction stage, I get involved with the consultants very early enough. So what I do in most cases during the pre-construction stage is to get the drawings from the different consultants and do what some people call the resolution of conflicts. I call it clash detection. That is the technical word for it. So I am more in tune with modeling rather than drafting of designs, because that way you hardly miss anything, because we're humans and we make errors or mistakes or omissions when we tend to judge things with our own human capabilities. But we now have advancement in technology that can enable me to do that. So what I do effectively is take the architectural drawing and take the structural drawing from the structural engineer or the consultant. I do what they call federation. I federate these two models together and run a clash detection on it.
Okay. Is it BIM modeling or what? Is it a BIM model?
Yes, that is the concept.
Okay.
That is the concept.
Sorry, for those that don't know what is BIM, that's building information modeling. Is a software that you see things in real time.
Okay. It's not just a software. It's a process.
Yeah.
Technology is a big part of it. What enables you to get this work done is the software. Yes, I agree with you, but I will crave your indulgence to pay more attention to the I in the BIM. It's about information. It's about the data you get from it. That's what's most important. I can understand where you're coming from. Most people in the industry see it like that, but it is not like that to me, because I have done a lot of research and a lot of work in BIM. I'm not just telling you things that are academic. I'm telling you things that I do day to day.
Practical.
And how it has helped to save millions of pounds on contracts, on project works that we are undertaking, because most of the problems that we have in construction is the problem of wastages and rework. And it doesn't just cost client money, it wastes your time, and it also affects the structural integrity of the assets. When you start to rework and break out things to redo them again, it's not as structurally sound as it should be. So what I'm saying is, during pre-construction, what you do is that you do a desktop exercise. It involves you going to sites. You do a bit of feasibility studies. You go to the site, because no project is the same. Every project is different, even if it's a prototype. Location will always be different.
Peculiarities. So it has its own peculiarities.
Yeah, the soil conditions of a particular site is different. Most professionals don't pay attention to such things, but in England we don't take those things for granted, because England's an island. So a lot of the sites the made ground is not. You need to understand the suitability and the integrity of the made ground for you to put anything on it. And because everything in England is regulated and it's done by contractual procedures and arrangements, which means that it's a legal framework. So any mistake that you make is costly. It can run you out of business. You might even go to prison if you're not careful. So diligence is the word. Proactive, being proactively diligent, the way you do things, is about processes. And quality in project controls and in project management or in construction embodies everything I'm talking to you about now. So why I get involved in the pre-construction stage is the fact that traditionally in project management, you have what they call the triple constraints. You have the scope, you have the cost, and you have the schedule. Those are the things that are very key to the client. What he wants, how much it will cost him, how long it will take for that asset to be delivered to him. Those are things that are very, he wants to ensure that he has value for, his money, or the money that is being spent. So in that regard, pre-construction is very important. You don't just go on site and get things done. As far as I'm concerned, that is the easy bit in construction, getting it done. But it is the planning, it is the pre-construction and the feasibility studies that is where the bulk of work is. So what BIM does in most cases, I started my architectural journey by drawing with the drawing board and T-squares. I'm not sure I still know how to use those things now. I started using AutoCAD when it was release 14. So I have vast experience in what I'm talking to you about now over 20 years. And 2D drawings has its own use, but you also need to understand that what people can visualize, it is easier for them to understand it. You and I had to have formal training for us to understand how to design and also interpret another person's drawing. Not everybody, has gone through that training. So it is easy for people to miss out major components during construction due to his inability to understand the drawing fully or the design fully. And those are part of the issues where you talk about quality, because what is quality in the project? Quality to some people means different things. Quality might mean that anything that is very expensive might be quality, but that is not the issue. Quality means adherence to the client's requirements, what he wants. If somebody wants a 2-bedroom and he wants you to build it in mud, that you did not build a house in concrete, cement, or block does not mean the house is enough quality. It's what he wants. It's been designed, it's been specified. Have you been able to replicate what has been documented physically? That is a conformance to quality. So I know what I'm saying, some people might find it, but that is the way it is professionally. Different people have different needs, different wants. So it's for you to listen to your client and understand what he wants. As a professional, the onus is on you to also advise the client. But you also need to understand that the client is telling you, this is what I want, within the confines of what he can afford. Technically, speaking from a safety and health, aspect of it, there are other reasons why you might need to advise a client not to go down the path he's going due to his choice of materials. I'll give you a typical example. I'm sure you're very aware of the Grenfell Tower incident in London in 2017.
Yes.
This is a council estate that was built some years ago, and somebody in the local council, Hammersmith and Kensington, I think, Borough, wanted to achieve, because it's the Highborough area, wanted to give the building a facelift and decided to clad this building with some materials. I don't know. The report of that findings is a bit controversial. I don't know if somebody did not do their due diligence. Nobody studied the composition of that cladding that was specified. That it is highly combustible. And for a high-rise building like that, those are things that you should put into consideration. The cladding in this case might be aesthetically pleasing, but it has poor fire resistance. And that is a major consideration when you are designing a building that is high-rise.
A public building.
Oh, yes, and about 72 people lost their lives due to somebody's decision. And for me, that is an aspect that affects quality, because the decision that was taken to use that particular cladding, in this case, the problem is not with the skill that is required to get the cladding done, because it was done properly, but the material itself was not suitable for the purpose it was used for. So when there was a fire incident, it was you know, it was easy for the fire to spread easily, and before the fire rescue team could respond adequately, it was something they'd not seen before, and the fire went down quickly and people died. You know, that is when you talk about cost of quality, this is what you're talking about. In project management, there are two concepts when you talk about cost of quality. You talk about the cost of conformance. You talk about the cost of non-conformance. Yeah. So when you talk about cost of conformance, you are talking about preventive measures and appraisals. Yeah. The cost of failure, as you can see, it can be very devastating because it could involve human lives. You know, and in this case, people lost their lives. You know, so the box starts from the very early stage, you know, during the pre-planning, where you get the consultants involved in the process of trying to achieve an objective. And the objective in this case is that you want an asset that satisfies A, B, and Z. And something that people don't really do in most cases is the fact that the client is not the only stakeholder in that construction. If it's a public building, you then need to do a needs analysis, because the people who will eventually use that facility might not be the client. It's his business to get an asset on the ground, but the people who are going to use them are different. So you need to do your due diligence in identifying from his brief what the likelihood of what the stakeholders are going to be, because you need to also factor those in. I'll give you a typical example. If you are going to build an asset for everybody, let's even say it's an office, it's a government office where people come in to do one business or the other, and you do not make provisions for people who are physically challenged. So in terms of quality, you find out that an aspect that is lacking. You know, because there are people who will come there on their wheelchairs, yes, who can't get into that building because you've not made provisions for a ramp for them to get in and get things done with ease. You know, and those are the aspects you need to consider. So stakeholder management in construction is as key as quality, because your requirement gathering, you know, your needs analysis, your business case is built from there. All these decisions inform your design. Quality is what you design, is what you plan in, is what you design in. It's not an afterthought. It is something you do from the word go. You need to, yes, from you know, yes, you need to consider planning, quality from. It's iterative. It's throughout the life cycle of a project. Now, what most people see as quality is what we can see with our, you know, physical eyes. You know, a job that was poorly done. Yes, that is part of it, but that can be remedied. That can be remedied if quality was planned in, if quality was designed in. For instance, as a designer, we are allowed to, you know, have all sorts of dreams and come out with a lot of concepts, projects that are very aesthetically pleasing. The question is, what you have designed, can it be built? This is where other consultants like the structural engineer comes in. He comes in, he does his calculation. This cantilever beam you've allowed for here, this is what is allowable by the standard and by law. And I've done my calculation, this is the extent you can go. So this design might not work. So there's an interaction and interrelationship between the architect and other consultants while this is going on. But like I said earlier, the start of this interview, I did mention the fact that because of how the industry is so fragmented, people see their business as the business model or strategy as something they must keep close to their chest. So they're not really interested in liaising with other consultants. They don't want to reveal their secrets too much. So the problem we have is the fact that the construction site now becomes the open play field where all these things are resolved eventually. And when you get to the construction site to resolve these things, it costs the clients money because there'll be trial and error. We have a valuable opportunity. Yeah.
If I may cut you in now, so how do you think you're talking of the ideal situation in UK, yeah? And we are here in Africa. And how do you think we can help to engage people for them to realize that I know that it's, of course, the big companies, a lot of people, they still do this planning, they still, but how do we get the mainstream to realize that, you have to work together, you can't work in isolation because of the greater goal is a goal for the end user, is not just about you. So how do you think we can get people involved over here to understand the processes and the way of doing things?
Sure, that's a very, very intelligent question you've asked. But I want to start by saying that Nigerians are one of the most intelligent, as one of the smartest people I've met in my entire life.
Thank you.
But we also have a penchant for turning our attention to what is right, and we do things the other way because what we see first is what comes out of it in terms of monetary terms. To be honest with you, most Nigerian professionals know what the right thing to do. As far as I'm concerned, is an issue of choice. They made a choice not to do the right thing because they want to make money for themselves without looking at how it affects the public or the end users. So to answer your question directly, how that can be done, there are two key stakeholders here, or well, three key stakeholders here. One is the government. To put regulations in place that people must adhere to. Then two are the professional bodies, who are supposed to be the custodians of the ethics and the standards of those professions. Because every discipline, architects, engineers, all belong to professional bodies. When the professional bodies now put in strict regulations to ensure that these things are adhered to, you then realize that we then start to have standards in the way things are done. The lack of standard is why things are the way they are. And enforcement of those standards. I'll give you a typical example. You and I know that when you pass your drawings to a structural engineer, if the structural engineer really wants to do his due diligence, he will first of all take a soil sample, analyze it, understand the suitability of that soil. Mm-hmm. It is based on that whatever form of foundation that needs to be on that soil will then be arrived at. And he also does his calculation to understand what is the right concrete mix for this kind of soil. So if the structural engineer who sits in the COE gives you a structural drawing and specification that says, on this site, I need the raw foundations in Lekki, that should be a mix of ratio 1 to 2 to 4. And me as the contractor goes on site and says, oh, don't worry, in Ikeja I built a house like this and I use ratio 3 to 6. You have just altered a legal framework, because that drawing that is given to you, you are supposed to follow it to the letter. The moment you change that specification from the structural engineer, that is a recipe for disaster, because that soil may not be adequate to hold a building that is built on that ratio. And that is why you have cases of building collapsing even while people are building them. These are the cases. So how do you arrest situations like this? There's what they call quality assurance and quality control. You must get professionals, architects, and engineers involved in the construction aspect of it. You don't just leave them after design. They need to come to site and do what they call supervision, stroke inspection, scientifically, not just by looking at it with your eyes. Before any contractor pours the concrete, you must take sample and do what they call a slump test to understand the integrity of what is going to be poured in situ.
What we
And
have
ensure
now
that
is
the
that,
rebars and all the reinforcements are done properly.
but what we have now is that people think it's too
Um,
expensive to hire the architects and the structural designers. Then they get, whether it's their builder friend or whoever they feel will charge them less. They supervise the work, and at the end of the day, the problem still comes up. And who is the loser? Who is the winner at the end of the
that,
day?
well, that is what I call spending wise, pound foolish.
Yeah,
If
because
you're
they
not ready
think
to
we are
spend,
too high. Then
yeah.
so they need to realign their minds that they are not
But
saving.
look at, yes, that's the point I'm trying to make. Look at it this way: if I cut corners and build an asset that collapses, my investment is gone. Yeah. If I was going to do it properly, maybe I could spend 10 million to get all the rights, to assemble the right team to get the job done. But because I want to cut corners, I have spent 7 million without involving those who have the expertise to get the work done. Then after a few months or a few years, the building collapses. Who's at loss? Your money has just gone down the drain. That is
Yes.
what people need to understand. Most people, I used to be an practicing architect in Nigeria, and I understand from my interaction with clients, when it concerns their personal building, they are more willing for you to do the right thing. If it's for a commercial purpose, they want to get it as cheaply as possible. And it has to do with our attitude, and that has to change. Because decisions that you and I make, Aisha, affect people.
Yes, exactly what you're saying is the engineer Ojo that spoke on the second day. He said the same thing. He was even doing it free for a friend, and they were going to a site in Magodo, and the client did not take the advice to raise the house up because Magodo has a problem with water, swampy area. At the end of the day, is below the water line, water level, and at the end of the day, they couldn't even live in the house. So they didn't even save
Do,
anything,
do,
and they had to sell off the house.
do you know that the government it is a government. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it froze for a while.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So I was saying it's not just a problem with the client, it has to do with the authorities as well. Yeah. When you have earmarked any location for development, the first thing you do is what you call the infrastructural development. You need to come in there and do a feasibility study of the area, understand the micro and the macro factors that could affect development in those areas.
Can you shed light on the micro and the macro factors? Can you give just a little so they can understand what you're saying?
What I'm trying to say is that the micro environmental factors would involve areas that, if we look at the environmental aspect of it now, you might be looking at a whole vast expanse of land, or I don't know how to explain this properly. I'll get back to that when I get my thoughts together.
Okay.
You
No
know,
worries.
but
Yeah.
what I'm trying to, yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, you need to do those feasibility
Mm,
and ensure that it meets all the requirements.
mm,
So macro will be site specific.
mm-hmm.
Micro will be the entire, you know, package and all that. Because macro, in the sense that in your own, the conditions on your side will be different from what's on the other, on your, give it a 1 kilometer away is a different conditions altogether. So
Mm,
each specific site must be assessed within its own merits and make informed decisions as it is. So you don't just take a brush and brush the whole Magodo area and say, well, this rule applies for all. No.
mm, mm.
At a high level, yes, that can be done, but at a micro level, you need to
Micro
come
level.
down
Come down to the
and to the basis and assess each specific site for specific issues and factors that affect that particular site and make informed decisions based on that. So, for instance, you're not going to use the same factor you are going to employ when developing a property in a site that is very close to a water body than one that is 10 kilometers away. They are different. So that will, affect the choice of foundations we are going to have. So the point I was trying to make before you ask that question is that infrastructural development is key before the actual building of those assets commence. So government needs to come in and build the roads and all the drainage facilities. That is important because until the roads are built, you don't really know where to take your levels from. So if you build your house before the road is built, there's a possibility that the road will be built and to be higher than your house. So which means your property will be prone to flooding.
Mm, mm.
So I think some local governments should have this information. Do we take the time or do we do the due diligence to go to these local councils and find out what the ordinance level is? These things are very important. I built a house in Lekki, and that was what I did in Etiosa. I went to Etiosa and found out what the ordinance level was. So when my foundation was, when the substructure was this high, I remember my neighbor, the neighboring property, the guy came in and said, we're wasting the client's money because the substructure was too high. But the problem that is inherent in Lekki. When it rains heavily, most people will need a yacht to get into their houses. But I told my client and I convinced him, I said, well, it will cost you money, but we have to do this foundation well. And it has to be high. It needs to be high because I can't see the level of the road. I've gone to SEOs, they've told me. But even at that, I have no equipment like an EDM to transfer the level from whatever it is marked to this site. So what I can do is to make some assumptions.
This point you have raised is very vital. And I hope everybody just got what you just said, because I think that is the crux of the matter. Because all that we are doing here, I want us to do it irrespective of the government. Because anything we say we are waiting for the government is like, you're like scratching on straws and might not get anywhere. But as you said, go to the local government and ask them the ordinance level and all those things, then we are making some headway there. But anything to say they can't, the government is not going to come and build a road for you unless they have an interest in it, so yeah, that's a very vital point.
But ideally, it is the responsibility of the government
it
to
is it
provide
is
those amenities.
it
But
is but that's
you and
not the ideal, that is not what we had, that's the ideal situation.
yeah, in Nigeria, things are different. And this is where I thought the professional bodies could be more could actively get involved.
We have a lot of problems. They want so everybody's just trying to manage their own. Anyways, I think we're gonna have to maybe do a part 2 of this at some point, because we have to round up now, because it's really a lovely one. I can't don't even know if I should ask you the lighter on a lighter note, the lighter question. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you a few light questions. I think I always ask the speaker, so I will still ask you, on a
Okay.
lighter note. So on a
Okay.
lighter note, so what would you say are your biggest strengths?
Um, I believe in collaboration, so I'm a team player.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay. So what about your biggest weakness?
I pay too much attention to details. So my greatest weakness is the fact that I find it very difficult to delegate work. I like to do things myself.
I didn't get that. What did you say?
I pay too much attention to details,
Okay.
and I find it hard to delegate responsibilities. I love
So
to do things myself.
at least you know it's a weakness, so you need to work on it.
It's not that I play very well within the team. I listen to every opinion, but when it comes to getting your hands dirty, I really want to get involved in getting my hands dirty. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but as you rise, you need to delegate.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that because I'm at a mid management level, so which means that I report to the chief executives.
Mhm.
I need to be quite sure that what I'm reporting is what it is.
Okay,
So
so you can't take
if
chances.
I don't take chances, so even if I give you, even when I delegate work to you, my eyes on what you are doing.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
My eyes on what you're doing, and for me, um, anything worth doing at all is worth doing well.
So where do you
I
see
think,
yourself? Okay, all right.
yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to move because we are trying to round up. So where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Where I see myself in 5 years time is use that word,
Sorry?
where I can freely consult, where I can fully consult
Sorry, you
for
cut off
companies
for a while. You cut off
on my
for a
own,
while. You cut off for a while.
and that's what I'm working towards.
Can you take that again? We didn't get the.
In order to get this done. So can you hear me?
I think we didn't get the first part you said. The first aspect. What did you say?
So I said where I want to be in 5 years is to be a full-fledged consultant.
Okay.
So I want to take my consultancy as a business. Um, at the moment, I'm a consultant working for a consultant. So you could call me an employee. So we are into contract administrations and PMO, project management office. So that's why I'm the project controls lead. I want to have my own consultancy, and I think I'm making the right steps to get there at the moment.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Mm.
That's a good one. So, is there any book that made an impact on you?
Yes, I have read a lot of books, but there's one that is quite key to me. It's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Ah, so another speaker said that. Okay.
It's a very good book. It just gives you a summary of success, how success comes about. That for you to be successful in life, you must be. It's not just because you were born into a wealthy family does not mean you'll be successful. You need to put in the work. So for you to be a master at what you do, you must put in the hours and understand how this is done properly. He also talked about location as well. Yes, the family you are born to is important, but it is not enough for success. So he spoke about other things and how people come together to do things as a community, how it can help people succeed in life. I think he spoke something about a particular people that came from Italy to settle in America. And the study done that people there, even though they have bad habits, they eat high fatty foods, and they smoke and they drink, that they actually live longer than people from other communities. So when the study was done to find out the reason for the longevity for this particular set of people, they realized that they are very closely knit community. You find out that there's a particular house where you might have 4 generations living in the same house. So that sense of community. People are coming from work. Aisha is coming from work. We stand on the road and say hello to each other, just the way we have that cultural thing in Nigeria. Very important to people's well-being. And where he's really stressed on is the idea that for you to be to have that mastery of any skill that you want, the level of skills you want to attain in any field, you need to put in, I think 10,000 hours is the scientific hours that they have researched, that if you put in the hours, you will be good at anything you put your mind into. For instance, if I want to learn how to play guitar right now, as long as I can put in 10,000 hours and start playing my strings in a structured and orderly manner, I'll become an expert in it. So what he's saying is that there's no limit to what human beings can do. Put your mind to it and put in the hours and you will get it done. So I love it because it's about hard work, that nothing comes easy if you don't work hard, which is very good.
Beautiful. So our closing remark. Could you give? I would like you to give advice to the audience, to the youth, to the downtrodden, to the unemployed. What is your advice to them?
My advice to the downtrodden is the fact that I understand that in their country, there's no enabling environment for success. So you really need to go out there and get what you want yourself. That there's no enabling environment does not mean that you should fold your hands and say, because the environment has not been created for me to succeed, I'm not going to do anything. The world is a global village now. And with technological advancements, the world is your oyster. You don't need to limit yourself to Nigeria alone. So I think it's about knowledge. And also acquiring the skills to apply that knowledge. It's not about paper certificate, no. I could learn carpentry in Nigeria. Knowing what I know now, I could be a carpenter in Nigeria and I will be a multi-millionaire. It's how you apply, get the skill, then get knowledge. Then you use that skill to apply the knowledge, that you have. Then there are people in Nigeria who are furniture makers who are multi-billionaires. When I was in university in Nigeria, there was a guy then, I don't know if he's still around now, called Bob Oshodi. His vehicles were everywhere. He was effectively a furniture maker like anyone on the street. The reason why people limit themselves to where they are is the fact that we just feel that going to university to get a degree is what it is. It's important, don't get me wrong, but you must also understand that you need to learn the skills to survive in life. That I'm an architect, I study architecture does not mean that I must be a designer. So you need to learn other skills. So life itself gives you the opportunity to do a lot of things. And it depends on what you think is important to you. These days, you find out that there are Nigerians who read medicine, who are not really practicing in that field. They are entrepreneurs. They are selling 1 or 2 things online. I've seen a lot of Nigerians doing different things. So my advice is the fact that don't give up. You must search for knowledge. You must get that knowledge and also acquire the skill to apply the knowledge. Otherwise, you just be a professor and be professing things without doing anything. It's very key. I am in fully support of academic achievement, but I also emphasize that skill acquisition is as important as the academic achievement. They both go hand in hand.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was lovely having you, and it's been
Thank
quite
you.
insightful. Thank you so much. I think I'll start
Thank you
saying
so
to
much.
the audience, please go and check out the YouTube page, the Facebook, as well as the LinkedIn page, all on Building Industry Entrepreneur Series. Thank you, Charles. Lovely having you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.